Well, welcome everybody to a special show for you at Waters Church, Deep End watchers or listeners, or anybody else out there. This is a special COVID-19 call-in line question and answer show hosted here at Waters Church in North Attleboro, Massachusetts. My name is Tim Hatch. I'm the pastor of Waters Church, and I am also the host of the Deep End podcast every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Plug. And I am joined in studio with several guests who are also going to help answer and talk to you and answer your questions. And I'm so excited to do this. This has been a little bit of a pet project of mine, a little bit of a dream of mine to have a call-in show. I've longed for those days. My favorite show of all time is Frasier. And so I've always longed to say those wonderful words. Go ahead, caller. I'm listening. Which one of you will be the first to call in? 508-695-1300. We want to hear from you. Or you can ask your questions through the Deep End outlets, which are ask@deepend.tv, or text any question, anonymously or not anonymously, however you want to, at 508-316-9333. So ask@deepend.tv, email, or text 508-316-9333. Welcome to the studio with me, if you will, everybody. Shane Parsons, executive pastor of Waters Church. Hello, Shane.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you here. And Marty McNeil from Waters Church Norwood.
Hello. How's it going?
Glad to have you as well. And over there with the production crew, we have the star of Between Two Church Plants. Yes, the one and only Jody Bowden.
It's funny because my dream's to screen calls. So this is a dream for both of us.
This is great. All of our dreams are coming true.
Coming true tonight.
Of course, it all relies on you, the watcher, those of you who want to. So, you know, it's a crazy time, and this has been incredible for our church in a very positive way in that it has forced our hand to do different things. And I think this is the one positive. And I know it's hard because it's 5 weeks, no, we're 6 weeks, right? 6 weeks into this crisis, and it is getting on our nerves. I am sharing with our church this Sunday about the wilderness, and I feel like we're all in the wilderness. And, you know, there's a little bit, in the beginning of this, there was a little bit of excitement of what we're going to do as a church. And then there was like, let's all do these cool things. And Jody came up with his cool, Between Two Church Plants. And you guys went with the Waters Kids online. And Shane, you've been trucking Chick-fil-A sandwiches across the United States for lunch to all the fire departments up the eastern seaboard. And it was great at the beginning. But you know what? Now we're in the doldrums, aren't we?
For sure.
It's like August.
Yeah. It feels like it.
And I know I had the discussion with my wife recently because she was talking about how fed up she's getting with it all. And I was like, well, it's not that bad. And then it hit me, things changed for us. I don't have a congregation here. I'm not seeing the kids every week.
Right.
But I am leaving the house. I'm driving here.
You are.
I'm
Right.
seeing
She's
people.
not.
So
Yeah.
it helped me to realize I had to be a little more compassionate on her side of things. Because like, oh, you're right. If I was in this house day after day for 6 weeks,
Yeah.
I would be more fed up than I am at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. And Marty, you have small ones at home.
Yes.
And your wife is educating them mostly, or are you tag teaming? What's going on over there?
So I'm not successful at the school time.
Right.
Because daddy's like play, joke.
Yeah.
So mom handles the serious part. I actually have to leave the house and go walk the dog because
Yeah.
if I'm there, it's just not productive.
Yeah.
But it is challenging.
Yeah.
And like Jody, she's home, with the kids every day. So my level of, frustration is lower than hers, obviously.
Yeah.
But we're getting through it.
Yes.
We're getting through it.
And Shane, you represent the empty nest crowd,
I do.
or as I like to call it, the freedom crowd.
No freedom. No freedom.
Yeah, you're at home with the wife
The wife, my dad, and 3 dogs.
and 3 dogs, and 3 dogs because you're insane.
Yeah.
And both of you are still alive, which is always a good thing.
Yep, she's still living, so am I.
Yep.
Thank God.
I think it's a win. If you're still breathing, it's winning.
And I work with her too, so
Yeah.
it's even double whammy.
I know. That's really tough. That's really tough. My wife is at home with our kids, and she is doing a fantastic job and teaching my kids and bringing them through their lessons, and it's so fantastic to see that. But it is not for her. This has confirmed our version for homeschooling. We are not homeschooling people. God bless you, homeschoolers, those of you who can do it. I don't know how you do it, but nonetheless. So call in, guys. This is your chance. And here's the deal. We're going to ask you to ask us questions, or maybe you just want to call in and just talk and just say, hey, let me just tell you what I'm going through and blah, blah, blah. We want to talk to you. The worst part about this is the leadership of our church, is so separated from you, those who we do this for.
Yeah.
We every Sunday it is my highlight of the week to see God's people, to see the church come together. Haven't had it for 6 weeks, so that was the purpose of 7 days of serving Jesus, for people to send their videos in so we could see them. Yeah. And I don't know if you guys are having this happen to your head on a regular basis, your mind, but every once in a while, a person's face will go through my mind. I'm like, oh my gosh, that person comes to our church. I forgot. Mm-hmm. And I've just, in many ways, I've forgotten a lot of our people. I want to hear from you. So call us, let us know. Maybe you just want to chat. Maybe you want to ask a question. Maybe you just want prayer. It's all up to you. All things are on the table until you start to bug us. Then we will cut you off. And then also text or email the questions in. So before we get to the first question that has already been texted in beforehand, Shane, we got some plans coming up, big plans for Woonsocket this coming Saturday, Friday? When?
Saturday, we're going to go to our new building, 1500 Diamond Hill Road, Woonsocket Plaza, and we are going to have our food pantry go mobile. So we're going to set up tents. We've called the mayor's office. We asked how we could help. They got back to us and said that was a really big need. Food at this time. So we're going to have a drive-up food pantry, and we're going to have boxes pre-made. They're going to pop their trunk open, put them in the trunk, and then they're going to go. So we have a registration going right now, waterschurch.org/pantry, right, Michael? Yes, that's what it is. Okay.
Yep,
that's the one.
waterschurch.org/pantry.
Yeah, you can register there.
Yeah, I put it on my Twitter feed today, the picture of the pantry. It is enormous.
Yeah, it's huge.
Got
a bunch of stuff today, and
a lot of work is going into that.
Yeah.
And very excited about that. And then we've got an exciting Between Two Church Plants episode coming up, I think, this week again.
Yeah, absolutely. Every Thursday, typically.
Yeah.
So there's a good one this week, and we're excited about it. It's one of the funnest things I've done. I enjoy doing it.
It's fun.
And, Marty's going to get on there at some point soon.
Oh, man.
And we're just going to keep going until you guys tell me I can't do it anymore.
I know.
Until I cut you off.
Like, I've had enough of this.
I think that this next one is going to be really interesting. We don't want to spoil it for anybody, tell what's going on, but it's going to be a very interesting episode. Yes. Let us know in the comments. Have you enjoyed Between Two Church Plants?
Of course.
What have you enjoyed the most about what we've been able to provide for you? I mean, or maybe what have you hated the most? Maybe we need to stop doing some stuff. We're annoying we're annoying you.
That's fine as long as it's not between two church plants.
Yeah. And then what can we do better as a church body? We want to do better. We always want to serve you. We always want to let you feel like we matter to you and we're helpful and we're a benefit to you. We don't want to be a drain on you. So. Nobody calling in yet. It doesn't look like it yet. Come on, somebody be the first caller. 508-695-1300. You will make my dreams come true. I am waiting for my chance to be Fraser Crane. I am waiting. All right, anyway, we do have a text-in question. This came in beforehand. And again, maybe you're not comfortable calling, so you can text any question you want, 508-316-9333. But go ahead, Jody, with the text question number 1.
All right, so the first question we have here is, my husband was laid off from his job at the beginning of the COVID-19 quarantine. What can I do to support and encourage him? He mentioned feeling like a failure as the man of the house who financially supports us, and I see him sinking into depression.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, as a pastor, this just comes in as very simple for me, which is we are created to work. And this is especially true for men. And I know I am 100% for women working, but I do know, and you guys all probably resonate with this, men need to produce something. Mm-hmm. They need to put their hands to the plow. They need to get out there and do something that they can look back and say, my hands created that. And so there's a very real depression element to not working. And that's the crisis that we are in right now, which is trying to reason at what cost do we shut down?
Yeah.
And we've got to get back to work. And I know the problem right now in our country is we're so politically tense, so politically argumentative. Everything becomes politics, which is so sad. So now even reopening the country, you're going to see this is going to be a long, drawn-out, big to-do where people are just going to argue and call each other names, and instead of just working toward a common solution, let's get back to work, it's going to be, you don't care about people because you want to get back to work, or it's going to be, you don't care about my freedoms because you don't want me to work. And this is going to just be the constant strife that we're going to see. So the questioner asks, what can she do, right? That's what she asks.
Right, that's what she asked.
And in my opinion is you can stay out of his way. Like this is a chance for you to just kind of take a couple of steps back, and I don't know if this is how you are, and I don't want to assume that you're like this, but sometimes women can, try to kind of cajole their husbands into certain spirits, or try to get them to do things that they want them to do, or whatever. But I think backing off, giving him his space is a great practical thing that you can do. Of course, spiritually, you can pray for him. But at this point, you could, practically, I think you could call your congressmen and senators and tell them, I want to get back to work. Like, what are you doing to help us get back to work? What are you doing to help us to reopen this country and this economy? And I think that Christians have got to realize that this country is based on the government by the people, for the people, and of the people. Back to those foundational principles. And I shared, and you guys saw this, I shared a big COVID commentary. It's a very long COVID commentary last night on the Deep End. And some people don't understand why I do that. But you have to understand that I am a pastor who cares about the real world in which you are living. And I can only say so many times, just keep the faith. I can only say that so many times. At some point, I have to tell you, we actually should probably start thinking about serious action, like as a people. And it's never popular when you do that, because pastors are very known for caring for people and bringing consolation and comfort to people. And when they have the audacity, quote unquote, the audacity to actually challenge government, challenge the political powers, speak to those issues, people almost assume that the pastor has stepped out of his lane. But that's not true, because politics and all the things that are surrounding us in terms of government and the way of the world and the way of our lives, that affects our spirits, as this questioner is stipulating right now.
Right.
So when a man can't work, my heart goes out to him, and I can't just say, well, just pray for him.
Yeah.
No, there's better answers. The better answer is be a good citizen, call your representatives, tell them, I need you to start working towards a solution. Because the biggest problem about this coronavirus for me right now is, what if it works? What if this shutdown works? That's the real tribulation we're going to experience.
Oh, yeah, it's scary.
Because every politician, we talked about this at lunch today, every politician has a vested interest in looking like the hero. I'm talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about Nancy Pelosi. I'm talking about Chuck Schumer. No matter the side, every single one of them have a vested interest in looking like the guy or the girl who made the right decision that got us through this crisis. And so you've got to be careful here about just saying, well, it's politics, we've got to stay out of it. No, it is part of our livelihood, and we should be engaged in it. And maybe this is a wake-up call to the church to get back involved in that. So that's two practical things. I don't know if you guys have anything that you'd add? Good?
Absolutely. I actually, 18 months ago, I was between jobs. And I had that same type of thing where I was like, I had like 3 months at home where I'm like, man, what do I do? And one thing that really helped me get through it, that made me feel that sense of accomplishment, even though I didn't have a job at the time, was every morning I'd make a list of everything I wanted to get done for the day.
Ooh, that's good.
And even ridiculous stuff like cook breakfast, wash dishes. Like I would make the list, and then I, as a man, felt accomplished because I would go through my list and check it off. And then when it was done, I could be like, look what I did.
Yeah.
I had 10 things to do today, and they're done by 2.
Yeah.
And it just helped me to get through that, realizing I'm still accomplishing stuff. It might not be what I was doing before.
Yeah.
I did a lot of random stuff around the house, too, repairs that needed to be done. But anything I did, I put on that list, and it made me feel like I was accomplishing something.
Yeah.
It's something to try to help.
That's great advice.
I mean, depression is a real thing. So
it's a real thing. Guys, anybody else?
I think for me, a while ago as well, I was out of work. During that time, I asked the question, what do I have that's valuable? What do I do that's valuable? What can I do that could be a source of income for myself and the family. And it might seem a bit morbid, but I sang at probably 8 to 12 funerals during that time. It's a door that opened up. I sang at funerals. They were dropping like flies, which is not necessarily good. But again, it was bringing income in that time. And my wife was supportive. She wasn't overbearing. She was there for me. Some days I was kind of happy and go lucky. Other days I was not happy, you know.
Yeah. So stay out of his way.
She kind of rode the wave with me.
Yeah, you got to
know?
do that.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. Have some patience and just lay off. And
Yeah. She's asking what she can do. Yeah, your husband himself could go out and try to find another job because there are people that are hiring. A Walmart truck just drove by me on the way here today, and it said, "We're hiring now. Please call to be a driver." So, I mean, that's not out of the realm of possibility. Maybe you could get a different job during this crisis and then go back to your regular job once things turn around again. I don't know, but you know, again, she's asking what she can do. I don't know if she wants to go and tell her husband to go do this, but maybe he's listening, and that could be a solution. Anyway, very exciting. Here we go. We've got a caller. We've got one caller.
All right.
So we want more callers. We've got 4 lines open, 3 lines open, 1 line. And so we're going to go to caller number 1. On line number 1, Jordan, you're on the air. Go ahead, caller. I'm listening. Jordan?
Hello, guys. How
Hey.
you doing?
Hey, Jordan, how are you?
Hey, Jordan.
hello.
How are
Hey,
you?
guys. I'm doing pretty good. So I just wanted to bring up this, the whole restriction on worship services. I believe the church as a whole in America has made a huge mistake allowing the government to dictate how we get together, when we're going to worship, no matter what time it is. There's no clause in the Constitution that says when there's a pandemic that our rights, First Amendment rights, are going to be abridged. It says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So therefore, I think it sets a very dangerous precedent that we're letting this happen in this country when we have all the right to resist and show that we do have these rights. I mean, when Paul in his day with the churches, the Christians were getting persecuted, but they didn't stop them gathering. Christians are always going to get persecuted. I mean, just look at the IRS scandal. The more we acquiesce to these tyrannical dictates from leaders that frankly hate us, like Governor Chris Cuomo and one of his
Andrew
conferences
Cuomo.
this week,
Andrew
he
Cuomo.
said, yeah, I'm thinking of the CNN guy.
Yeah.
He
The
said
brother.
that he said that God and faith hasn't made the virus numbers go down. It's us. So
Yeah.
he's like taking full pride in like the man that we're the ones doing it. That God has nothing to do with this.
Yeah. Yeah, Jordan, I get the gist of what you're saying, and let's start addressing that question. And you're right. There is a clause in the Constitution. It's the First Amendment of the Constitution. It's one of the greatest rights that was ever written down in the history of the world. It separates the church from the state, and it makes clear that the Congress and the legislators of this country cannot make a law regarding religion or this free exercise thereof. And I love that clause. We live by it. We stand by it. We will die by it one day. And you're right. It's under attack, and I agree with you wholeheartedly about everything that you said, principally wise. But there is a practical side of ministry that we also have to consider.
Right.
And that does bear on what we decide as leaders of a church. And if we can be good citizens for a season and not hold public assemblies for the good of our neighbor, we will do that. And so that's the decision. And it was a hard decision for our church to make. Let me tell you, nobody wanted to do this less than me. None of us wanted to do this. And, you know, we've got a tension that's rising in this country. You've mentioned it yourself, Jordan. I agree with you. The tension is rising. The IRS, you're talking about the IRS, the controversy under the last presidential administration where it was weaponized against conservative Christian groups to revoke their tax-exempt status. Totally get it. But here's the deal. As Christians, where we can find common ground with government, in times of crisis, we should be helpful to our surrounding communities. We should not exploit our freedoms for for the sake of exploiting their freedoms.
Just
You know what I
because,
mean?
yeah.
Just because. Let's not be, we're going to stick it to them just to prove that we have these rights. Because the greatest act of self-limitation was embodied in the person of the Lord Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
He had total freedom to do whatever. On the cross, he could have called, what did he say? I could call 12 legions of angels, which is 1,000 angels each in each legion. 12,000 angels could have been at the right hand of Christ on the cross, and he limited his freedom to save the world. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So as Christians, yes, I get it, and let's fight for our rights in the public in the public sector through whatever legal means necessary when the laws passed encroach upon those rights, right? Let's do that. Let's fight for our rights because we shouldn't just be doormats. But where we can find common ground for a season as a church, and again, the key word is there, for a season. Let's lay down our rights for the good of our neighbor, and let's bring glory to the name of Jesus and use it to embody the nature and the message of Jesus, who, though he was in the very form of God, did not consider equality with God something to be grasped or held onto, but laid it aside for the sake of us all. So that's my answer. You guys have anything you want to add about that? Thank you for the question, Jordan. Love it. Great first question.
Yeah.
Anybody? No?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And the thing is, you have to realize, when is it that it's not for the good of the people? Like, when are we doing what we're doing because we're being told to, not because we're choosing to? That's really that differentiator there. Like, are you forcing me to keep my doors closed, or am I doing it because I care for the people?
That's the difference. Yeah. And when it comes, and it might come where it becomes ridiculous, and we have to say, no, we're opening. Nobody's more tempted, Jordan, to do that than me. Trust me, these guys all know. I'm like the wild horse. They're all like, no, maybe just pull them in just a little bit. I'll have a service tomorrow, for heaven's sake. Anyway, thank you for the call, Jordan. And we got another call from Dean, my friend Dean Harrington, my Twitter pal and my church pal. Love you, Dean. You are on the air with the COVID call-in line. Go ahead, caller. We're listening. Oh, we lost Dean. All right, every call-in show
there you go.
has its first dropped call. So, Dean, congratulations. Call back, Dean. We'll get you right to the top of the list. It's a short list.
We do have some texts coming in if you'd like one.
Well, all right. Let's go to a text, and we'll see if we can get Dean back on the line.
All right, so we had on Waters TV, we had a question come in from Thalassophile, which is someone who loves the sea. I like that name.
Nice.
How and when do you see Waters Church opening again?
Great question. And at this point, we are listening and respecting Governor Baker's decision-making, again at this point, for when it will be proper for us to open up for the good of the community, for the health of the community. So in my opinion, and I'm going to share my opinion, the problem that I am having right now is the enormity of the speculation around coronavirus right from the beginning. And I have a post that's still up on my blog about this. This was the one that was going to kill us all, and then the article from The Intercept that I shared on the Deep End 2 weeks ago, 2.2 million deaths worldwide. We haven't even crossed, I think, 200,000 deaths yet. I think we're well below that. And it could get worse, but as of right now, the curves are flattening. The European countries are starting to look to reopen, and it's not as bad as they made it out to be. And I think, in my opinion, we're going to look back on this a year from now and say the shutdown was ridiculous. That's my opinion. This was ridiculous. So at some point, we're going to open up we're going to open up as soon as we can, provided that the restrictions are lifted. And at this point, I think it's May 4th, but it's looking like it's going to be pushed back.
Yeah, it might be pushed back.
I
think Mother's Day was the goal to be open.
And that's the next week.
Yeah.
May 10th. So at this point, I'd like to have a service on May 10th for Mother's Day. Yeah, that would be wonderful. But they just canceled schools for the year up here in Massachusetts. And again, it's a tense decision for us. We're not gonna make it lightly. And we want to make it smart. So pray for us. Pray that God will give us guidance in that direction. And as soon as we can have a service, you just pay attention. Get on the 411-411. If you text Waters Church to 411-411, you will get on our text alert system. Check out our social media pages. We will be announcing that broad scale as soon as possible.
Yeah,
Guys,
we're already coming up with plans to open and how to open safely. We're going to be watching these seminars that some of these churches are putting on to just come up with a game plan for May 10th.
Yeah. And I don't agree with everybody's ideas too about that. We get on seminars for ideas, but we don't always say, okay, well they're doing that, so we're going to do that. You know. But like for instance, I was on a conference call with a very successful pastor in Cincinnati, Ohio today. And he said, even if they lifted the restrictions, I'm not having services with 30% crowd. Like his understanding is people are going to be skittish about coming back to church.
Right.
So I'm not. His language was, I'm not opening the buildings if only 30% of our congregation is opening. That's not my idea. My idea is I don't care if it's 20%.
Yep.
If 20% are willing to come and worship Jesus together, I can't wait to have you back. So we are opening as soon as we possibly can. And pray for the swift end of this and pray that our governors and our elected officials get their act together and look for a turnaround to open things up. That's right. All right, we do have Dean back on the line. Dean, you are on the air with the COVID-19 call-in line. Hello, Dean.
Come on, Dean.
Do it. Don't let us down, Dean.
Dean, you're on the air. Are you on the air?
Yeah, I'm here.
Dean, there you are. How are you?
I missed the beginning of this, so I don't want to jump in and be redundant to things, but just, I think the frustration that I have as a business owner and just as a citizen, do you want me to just kind of give you some thoughts?
Sure, absolutely. And you're going right in line with the theme of tonight is call, ask questions, or share thoughts or whatever. We want to hear from you.
Yeah, so just as a little bit of background, I have a company with 75 employees. We've had most of them working at home since March 11th, which, through the grace of God, we were in position to do that, and we haven't skipped a beat. Everybody's healthy, so I'm just really blessed and, empathetic. But I think the frustration that I have, and I think the thing that we all need to look at is there is very little dialogue about the cause and effect, the action-reaction part of this.
Yes.
So you have the health concern, but then you have the economic concern.
That's right.
And so when I look at politicians or I look at even anyone in the media, the first thing I'm looking for is critical thinking. The critical thinking being the ability to hold two opposing thoughts in your brain at the same time and articulate the strengths and weaknesses of both sides. And I don't see that in the media. I don't see it in our political discourse, meaning what is the cause and effect of having unemployment double? Well, how about getting to 25 million people unemployed? We know that the first thing that God did in the Bible was to give Adam a job.
Give him a
There is
job.
no retirement. There's no retirement in the Bible.
Right.
We are emotionally disrupted
Yes.
when we're not working fruitfully and gainfully, and there's a lot of evidence of that, a lot of reports of that. Yeah. So what we've done is we've just shifted millions of people into that position where they do not feel productive, where they do not feel called to what they are humanly called to. I mean, Keller wrote the great book, Every Good Endeavor.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've read it, Tim. And
Yeah, it's a great book.
we're called to that. And nowhere when I turn on television or I listen to radio do I hear anyone saying, what's the collateral damage of having this many people displaced, emotional disruption, along with the financial catastrophic elements of it, combined with the emotional. I mean, there's data out there that suggests every 1% increase in unemployment does a number of different things. It triples the amount of suicide, 3% increase in suicides, like a 5% increase in overdoses for every 1%.
Yeah.
So if we take 4% and we go to 12 and we go to 20, the massive amount of deaths will outstrip the virus. And no one's having that discussion that I'm hearing. And I think they're not here. And then if you try to have that discussion, you're getting shamed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And which shaming is, it's a device of tyranny. I don't mean to get all historic
At this point it is. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they can get you to be quiet. But then the other side is people of Christ who died in Christ, who died with him. We're called to a truth and grace moment with everybody we deal with. We want to look back on this and have a James 1:2-4 experience, right? We want to have this trial to produce perseverance and joy. So we want to be godly in that respect.
Yeah, and it's a
But
both.
when the frustrations
start to hit, it gets tough.
It does get tough. And you bring up just such a great point, and I'm so glad that you as a business owner did call in to share those thoughts, because your thoughts matter. And that's, unfortunately, and I say this all the time on the deep end, I'm talking about it constantly. It's a victimhood culture. And the more that I can create a victimhood over my life, it's almost like by being more of a victim, I have earned the right to have my voice heard. And that is just so antithetical to the human history. Yes, victims should be heard, but not everybody's a victim. Right. And we are all sinners. And so even in our victimhood and even in serious victimhood states where you really did suffer, even your processing of your experiences is tainted by sin. It's called total depravity for a reason. Every part of you is in some way infected by sin. And so I think that you have a great point being made here in that we want to argue for the protection of everybody, but that argument is tainted by sin. That argument is tainted by, I think that the only thing that we should do right now is try at all costs to save at least one life. Like I said that last night. It's driving me nuts, this idea that we should only, whatever it takes to save at least one, we should do it. I mean, this has never been...
We don't believe that.
Yeah, this has never been...
We don't believe that as a society.
No.
We don't believe that
No, we
every
don't.
time we get in a car.
No, we don't believe that. That's right.
40,000 people die a year in cars in the United States. Over 1 million are injured in cars. Over 1 million people die worldwide in car accidents every year. So we have to make an economic decision, as poor as it is to say this, that, look, I'm willing to get in a car knowing that there's a chance that I could be seriously injured or die, and we all realize it. If we wanted to eliminate every single death of cars in this country, we would take all our roadways out. We don't do that.
That's
so
right.
I think the trouble that I have with this is, to your point of trying to create a victimhood of it, is we treated it like a national weather forecast. You know, I live in Rhode Island, where nearly every death has been from a nursing home so far.
Nearly every one. I know.
Yet,
Yes, it's true.
Yet, I can't have my staff, who are mainly 25-year-olds to 40-year-olds, in the office. I can't go get my hair cut, where I might be the only guy in there with my 40-year-old guy that cuts my hair. Go on and on and on.
Yeah.
But we've treated it like a national forecast. We basically said that, hey, it's going to snow in Maine today. Miami, put your hats and gloves on.
Yeah. And that's the
we've
problem.
done that.
And so because of, and this is why I go back to victimhood, because nobody wants to step up and say something that suggests otherwise. Maybe we don't have to be victims of what could happen. Maybe we don't have to be victims of what the worst possible case scenario is of this crisis. Maybe we could believe for the best. Right now, and I don't know if you heard about this, Dean, but right now in Sweden, they are taking a far less drastic approach to engaging this virus than we are.
From day one.
And they have done very practical and reasonable restrictions. In other words, if you are in the risk categories, elderly and infirmed and pre-existing conditions, well, then take precautions. Nobody, you're right, very few people, at least that I've heard, are talking about the success that Sweden is engaged in right now with this crisis. Their death rate is a touch higher than the rest of the European countries. And here's the other thing, that no matter what, and nobody's thinking about this, no matter what, at some point, we all have to go out there and face it. We gotta face the virus. Social distancing is not actually killing the virus.
Right.
So shutting down, that's my point about this thing is not actually, the worst thing that could happen is we actually think this worked.
Right.
Because it's not going to kill the virus. You don't kill the virus by getting it less, spread abroad. At some point, we're going to have to come out of our caves, out of our holes. And this is why I get upset with Christians about this too. The Christians that want to hunker down and they're okay with it. Do you remember when David arrived at the Philistine battle lines and said, okay, everybody hunker down, hunker down? Do you remember when Moses came into the Israelites when they were slaves in Pharaoh and said, all right, everybody, we're going to win this war. We're going to go. We're going to pretend like Pharaoh's not there. So go into your homes and you've got to face the obstacle. And this is, again.
How about we built this country that way?
We built this country that way. We beat Hitler that way.
Yeah, I think people know. I think one of the biggest concerns I have right now, back to the critical thinking idea, is to what you were just saying, that, look, you can have it's mutually inclusive to have care and concern
Yes.
for those that are predisposed to this, the elderly and people with respiratory issues,
Yes.
et cetera, et
It's
cetera,
not hard.
or the people working on front lines, or the people working in nursing homes, and still want the economy to open.
Yeah.
And right now, there's no place for that person.
Right.
There's no
Well, there
place
is
for that
here on
person.
this
That
call
person-
line, Dean, and we're so glad that you
Yes.
called in. And that's exactly what we want to hear. We want to hear from you because your voices need to be heard. And I do think that there is this shame, like Dean said, there is this shame culture that if you dare raise your voice about reopening, it's almost like you don't care about people. Well, we do care about people, and jobs are necessary for people's existence and livelihood and health. I was showing the TikTok videos of the nurses dancing in the hallways last night, and right over here, I have my assistant, and her husband is in the medical field, and he has had to forego large portions of his job for the sake of PPEs being provided for these people, and there they are dancing in the hallways with them. Yeah. It's outrageous, honestly, in my opinion. Any thoughts about these guys?
Yeah, I mean, my initial thought is that the victim culture, but also going back to what you said about everybody wanting to be the hero, is a lot of times people take that the minority changes everything for the majority. You know, decisions are made on a small scale that affect everybody on the large
Yes.
scale, and it's that way across everything. You look at transgender issues, you look at gay marriage issues, everything. It's based on a small amount of people, but the decision is made on a global level. And it's the same thing here. Like the people that are being affected, like the way Sweden's doing it, they're not looking at, they're taking that small percentage and saying, you guys stay at home.
Yes.
Where here they're taking that small percentage that should
And
say,
what
no,
they are doing,
everybody stay home.
And what they are doing now, our country is going to have to do.
Right.
At
Yes.
some point, we have got to herd immunity this thing. And herd immunity means everybody face it. Everybody who's got to get it is going to get it. And if those of you who you people who want to wait for a virus, you are out of your flippin' mind because it's going to take 18 months, even if we get one. Right. There's a good chance. There's now new studies about this virus that is mutating so fast. Now they found out that it's mutating actually, which is horrible because once it starts mutating, you can't isolate it for a vaccine. So these people who say hunker down for 18 months for a vaccine, you may hunker down for nothing for 18 months.
Right.
And that's the problem. Anyway, do we have another text question?
We do, yes. This one says, this is anonymous, but it says, not sure if this is still going on or not, since I try not to watch news channels, but what does it mean for our volunteers at the church when the state of Rhode Island is actively trying to dissuade out-of-state visitors from entering?
Say question again. I'm sorry.
What does it mean for volunteers at our church when the state of Rhode Island is actively trying to dissuade out-of-state visitors from entering?
What does it say for our volunteers?
Yeah, and I think what they're asking and what the answer is here is we're still in that phase of trying to do what's best for our people. So we actually aren't having volunteers come in at the time. This question is going to come into play when they give us the reopening, and then she says that's fine. But if you live in Rhode Island and you go to church and mass, you can't do that. You can't leave the state to go to church. That's when it starts to infringe on the rights and those things. But we are taking that approach of limited amount of people here in the building, same people week after week, so that we can try and just be good stewards of our health here and do the right thing.
Well, that's coming up with East Providence going into Seekonk to go shopping. There was confusion of whether they had to self-quarantine for 14 days after they went to Shores, but they don't have to. You can go and come back.
Crossing states from Massachusetts to Rhode Island, there's a lot of leniency there.
Yeah.
And you know what I loved about the mayor of Attleboro, who actually publicly confessed on his Facebook page? He's like, yep, these are the restrictions that we are suggesting, but there's 100 cops and there's 40,000 people in the city, and there's no way we could stop you from doing what you want to do. You know, thank God for honesty.
Yes.
At least he's honest. You know, and he's a very smart guy. He's got like 5 master's degrees, but he's smart, and in his education he didn't become dumb like a lot of people do. But that's the truth. And so my suggestion to you is, if you want a biblical precedent for this, remember it was Puah and Shua. Talk about cool names from Exodus chapter 1, who did not kill the Hebrew boys when they were born. And they directly defied the edict of Pharaoh. The midwives were supposed to kill a boy. If it was a boy, if it was a boy, supposed to kill it, and if it was a girl, let it live. And this was a way to stop the Hebrews from multiplying. They were multiplying that fast. And so these 2 women resisted the edict of the king quietly and didn't kill the boys, and then God blessed them with their own families. There is a place, and back to Jordan and even Dean, there is a place for civil disobedience in the history of the Christian movement. I mean, for heaven's sakes, that's how we got civil rights in this country in the first place. Civil disobedience. If you don't have civil disobedience, you still have the slave trade going on in the West. If you don't have civil disobedience, you still have women subjugated to a less than human role in the society. You've got to challenge the powers that be. Daniel did it. David did it. Tell me somebody that was a successful hero in the scriptures and always went with the flow. So my admonition to you volunteers who are going to cross state lines is don't say anything. Like, just do it. Once we start reopening, just don't say anything. Just keep your mouth shut. And if you're asked a question by a cop, answer honestly. But you know what? If you don't have to answer or say anything, just quietly serve the Lord.
Just obey the speed limit on the way home. You'll be all right.
Yeah, be very careful about that.
If you have a real
That might be
problem with it,
difficult for you, right, Pastor?
Yeah. Oh, very difficult.
well, go to one
The
socket.
speed suggestion. I call it the speed suggestion. Anyway, we've got another phone caller on the line 2, and the lines are open, friends. We had them full. Now they're open. So line 2, John, the former Baptist, calling about the food bank. You are on the air. John, we're listening.
Oh, hi, Pastor Tim.
Hi, John.
I just want to encourage this one socket food bank
Yeah.
Saturday. We just one of our small group members' daughter called from New London, Connecticut, out of food for 2 days, unable to get food, no money.
Wow.
And so we did a shopping cart load at Stop and Shop, and it was driven down and delivered to her today. There are a lot of people out there who have not gotten a stimulus check, have had their applications or the process for getting food assistance stopped due to the COVID-19 problems.
Yeah.
And they're out there. They're probably not as visible as the people who are long resident in certain communities. They had recently moved into this neighborhood and were very unfamiliar and were relying on a small mom and pop store to get what they needed for groceries. They needed it. They were actually on the cuff.
So you and your wife brought them what? You did this?
No, one of my small group members.
Oh, okay.
We went out shopping and pulled a cart up, and she drove it down to Connecticut to her daughter.
Wow. And when was this? When was this?
Today, this afternoon.
Oh, wow. Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Could not wait for the food bank to open up here in Attleboro
Right.
at 3:00, and which is an open one at the Hebron Food Pantry. And of course, applying for what they needed online would require getting the stuff tomorrow, as opposed to getting what they needed today. I mean, they hadn't eaten in 2 days.
Yeah.
Wow.
Shane, you want to talk to this?
Yeah, John, they could, use waterschurch.tv and click I need help, and we would have had it ready for them right outside in North Attleboro, too.
Would we be able to deliver to people?
We would make that happen.
Would
Yeah,
make that happen.
I
Yeah.
don't know about
You hear-
Connecticut, but
yeah.
we would. Get
John,
it.
if you hear
We
about
could
this
ship it.
at all, anywhere, please let us know as soon as possible and direct them, like Shane said, to waterschurch.tv because there is a link very simply there. Just click I need help. We're going to get these people help. And they do not have to belong to Waters Church.
No,
it does not matter.
We've been doing it daily. People have been picking up every day. And I think as the month goes, the first of the month is not as much of a need, but as you get down to the end of the month, there's a bigger need. So-
Yeah.
And the food banks locally, they're going empty now, too, so we're helping them.
Yeah, and then there's the food pantry, the drive-through pantry on Saturday in
Right.
Woonsocket.
Yeah.
So thank you for the call, John, and I love it. The church being the church, that's one of the most beautiful things to see during this crisis is things like that, and not even having that sponsored by church leadership or the paid staff of the church, which is just to see naturally organic ministry from one member to another happening. That's a great sign that the gospel is changing people's hearts and making people just wonderful, really wonderful testimonies to God's grace. So all lines are open now, friends. 508-695-1300. Call in, get your questions asked, moan with us, weep, whatever you want to do, complain. call for a public protest. We might get banned from YouTube if we say that. I don't know if you guys heard about that YouTube is now going to censor anything that counters the WHO's recommendation.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, YouTube. So good job, YouTube. I mean, where is free speech going? This is ridiculous. We have a text question.
Yes. This is from Janice, and it says, can you recommend encouraging scripture that I can suggest to my elderly mom to read? She lives alone and is lonely, and it's getting to her. I tell her to turn off the news, but I'd love to suggest a good place in the Bible for her to start reading.
So she's alone.
She's alone.
Does she have internet access? Because you know what I'm about to plug. You know what's about to come out of my mouth.
Between two church plants.
That was third on my list. That was third on my list. There's waterschurch.tv, the Sunday morning experience. There's also
Absolutely.
the Deep End TV. And then there is our daily devotional right now, which we are going through the book of 1 Peter. And it's on at 8 a.m. every morning for 5 days a week, 8 a.m. Log on, waterschurch.tv. And here's the thing you could do, caller or texter, is get a hold. Did she say that she has a smartphone? We don't know.
She does. No, she just says that she lives alone and is lonely, and it's starting to get to her.
Well, get her a smartphone if she doesn't have one, and log on to YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channels. Subscribe to Waters Church, youtube.com/Waters Church, youtube.com/The Deep End TV, right? Is that it? And subscribe and hit the notification bell. And this is the best part about it. This is why you can hit that little notification bell next to the subscribe button, because that way your smartphone is going to ding you to tell you that we are live with something. And we are working a lot in this office. In fact, I think we're working more now than we are during regular church season.
Absolutely.
To provide constant biblical content. And I'm a fan of reading, but this is easier. It's watching. So, you can read along with us if you want to through 1 Peter. And that way, as soon as that, I got a notification at 8 a.m. when I was getting ready to come into the office today. Waters Church is live. Click on it, and it goes right to the video, and you can watch it right from your home on your smartphone. That's what I would say with any elderly, with any isolated people. Help them out with this. Get them on. Anything you want to say?
Yeah, but what if they don't have internet? They can use our new telephone number. Maybe you can put it in the chat.
We'll put it in the chat.
That is you can listen to the service live, and it'll call you when it's going live too. You can sign up for that.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it'll call you.
Yeah, so Shane is talking about this new system that we just actually got up and running, which is to have anybody without internet access be able to listen on a phone call. So you won't see anything, but you'll hear something. Really cool way for you to be engaged with Waters Church if you're not technologically savvy. And I didn't even know. They will call you.
Yeah, they called me. I tried it. 19 people listened to Sunday.
I know. Isn't that fantastic?
Yeah.
Wow.
And the good news for our church is our numbers in terms of people watching and being engaged in the services are going up, not down.
Yeah.
Yep.
The giving has been fantastic. You guys are doing amazing out there. Thank you so much. You're keeping us up and running, and we just appreciate you so much. Any other thoughts about that, guys? No thoughts? Okay, well, we've got a caller.
Thank
Minimal
God
thoughts
for
here.
caller.
We've got a caller. Lines are open, 508-695-1300. Get on the phone. Give us a call. Let us know what's going on in your life. We want to hear from you, 508-695-1300. Jacob Wells, the founder and CEO of Give, Send, Go, a fantastic crowdfunding resource, is on the line with us now. Jacob Wells, thanks for calling.
No problem. Awesome to be here. I just had to lock myself in the bathroom to get away from the chaos.
Yeah, because how many kids have you got, Jacob?
6 kids, and if I had hair, I would have pulled it out, but we're surviving. Yeah. So
Yeah.
definitely awesome to call in, but I wanted to paint a silver lining for just some people that are feeling the stress of some of what's going on. Give, Send, Go is a fundraising platform, crowdfunding platform geared towards the Christian community. We track a lot of numbers. We see a lot of people giving to various things. And one of the things that has been surprising to me in the midst of this, since the beginning of all of what we've seen happen with the economy crunching, people becoming unemployed, and all this different stuff going on, we've actually seen an increase in generosity among Christians giving to other people. And it's been a fascinating thing to see that as the world in many ways financially and economically has contracted, the body of Christ has actually been stepping up and becoming more generous now by the numbers than we've ever seen before. And it's an amazing thing to me. I was sitting here listening to you guys talk, and I was like, this is something that I want to share with people, because I think that in times like this is what we need to see. This is what we need to realize, that the church is being the church, that there are people out there rising up. And this is not just here locally, this is all over the world. I mean, our platform works all over the place, and it's people everywhere that are digging deep and saying, in the midst of this, I'm going to show who I really am, what I really believe, and I'm going to be generous.
Amen, Jacob. And stay on the line for a moment, because I really want to plug your website, because I believe in it. I thank God for, this was your idea as far as I remember, and I haven't seen you so long, I forget some details. I'm sorry. But we love you and thank God for you. And so it's givesendgo.com.
That's right. The 3 words, givesendgo.com. Yeah.
Yeah. And the difference between you and GoFundMe. Can you just talk to that for a moment?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of originated because what we saw was that it's important to raise money for the material things in life, but that isn't the complete solution. As Christians, we know that there are immaterial realities to the world that we live in, and that only Jesus meets those immaterial needs. So as important as it is to have fundraising platforms, if you're not also bringing the hope of Jesus when you are raising money, then all the money in the world isn't going to solve those immaterial problems. And so we wanted to bring, the original idea was, what is there? We need to bring a platform that isn't just about raising money, but it's also about the hope of Jesus in the midst of the circumstances of life.
Yeah.
So we created our platform as an alternative to GoFundMe. We started as a free platform. We still are a free platform, meaning we don't charge a mandatory platform fee as GoFundMe was. They've since copied our model, what we were doing.
Really?
Yeah, and it kind of swung over our way, I think, partially because of the pressure of what we were doing. We were beginning to make some headway in the market, and they were seeing, wow, this is going to really beat us up if we keep going charging the large amounts that they were. But that's I think one of the primary drivers, and probably the most important, is that we need to keep Jesus the center of our financial giving and the things that we resource.
And I am a big fan. And I'm a big fan, Jacob, of Christians partnering with Christians in business. Find that Christian businessman that you can support, and find that Christian person who you can partner with in the financial industries of our world, because that matters. That's why we are big Chick-fil-A shoppers over here in this place. We value these guys, and we want them to succeed because they are brothers and sisters in Christ. And my daughter actually is working for Chick-fil-A, so I have a vested interest there too. But so you say generosity, and you're talking about money coming in to Give, Send, Go through your platform is actually increasing during this crisis.
It is, and one of the ways that we see is because we operate as a platform, since we don't charge a mandatory fee ourselves, we operate on generous additional donations when people give to various campaigns that they're supporting. And people are actually giving over and above what they use. Originally, we saw 60-65% of people actually giving an additional amount to Give, Send, Go, and now it's up over 80%.
Wow.
So it's just a fascinating thing to see that this is actually, it wasn't what I was thinking was going to happen.
Right.
In this. It was actually just the opposite, and it's amazing to see. But I also want to make one big distinction about our platform versus GoFundMe, and that is the freedom of speech on our platform. One of the things that we believe as a foundational principle is that we may not all agree the same things, but we should have the right to voice our opinions about things. And GoFundMe recently has made, or even over the past couple of years, has made a very vocal stand about closing down campaigns for things that they don't agree with. And
Yep, I know.
And we just said, listen, you know what? We're not going to do that as a platform. If what you're raising funds for is a legal activity, then we're going to allow you to do it. We may not agree with it, but hey, you're going to hear about Jesus when you come to our site in the process of doing that. And so we're going to use this as a ministry tool, but we're going to give people a place to have a free voice, to raise money for the things that they feel they need to raise money for in the world. And we're going to do what we can as a platform to tell people about Jesus in that process. But we're going to keep it free. And we have campaigns going on right now from silenced voices all over the world. A medical doctor in Australia that just got his license revoked because of this whole just oppressive nature of, if you don't agree and toe the line, we're going to destroy you. And
correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you get a letter of cease and desist order or something like that about that particular campaign? If I'm not, what was the letter?
Yeah, the letter that we received was actually in regards to something a little bit different. We, as a faith-based platform, we saw the payment processor at the time that we
the
had
payment
at the
processor.
time.
That's right.
Yes,
the bank.
They were trying to kick it. The bank. They were going after shutting us down and forcing us.
And so
out of business.
you fought back, right? And you won something there, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct?
Well, we did fight back. We got some legalities involved in it, and things kind of a solution was put in place, and things kind of been at a standstill there. And we've made our workarounds, and now the great thing about it for us is now the platform works more efficiently than ever, and we have even an even better processing rate for our givers that we're going to be turning down the line, because for us, a huge part of this is we know that the money that people raise is important. That's why they're raising it. It's one of the reasons why we didn't want to charge anything and just wanted to make it free will. But our goal is to, as we continue to grow, is to leverage our growth to get that payment processing amount lower and lower and lower for our campaign owners, so that they can keep more of the money to raise.
Well, thanks for calling in, Jacob, and I'm so appreciative of what you do for at GiveSendGo.com. I want to plug it because I believe in it, and I thank God for you, a brother in Christ. We want to partner with you. And most importantly, I just want to bring up that we just talked about. He did get some pushback because he allows Christian-based crowdfunding, and sometimes Christians crowdfund for things that the world thinks are now hateful, bigoted, homophobic, whatever you want to call it. And we have got to be aware of this. This is why I talk about the political nature of our country. It matters. Religious freedoms are hanging in the balance, guys. You're not aware of this. A lot of Christians are oblivious to this because they're just worried about being more spiritual. And, sometimes we got our heads so high in the clouds, we're not going to realize that the rug's going to be ripped out from under our feet. And then where's your head going to be? You got to watch out for this. You got to be aware of it. The Apostle Paul is a wonderful example. We're going to get to it in the deep end in a couple of weeks about when he uses his Roman citizenship to spare himself from a public flogging. And he leveraged the law to protect himself. Christians have an inherent right to do that today. We are not called to be social doormats. Please, please, please get out of that persecute me mindset like you're earning stripes in heaven by suffering needlessly. Like, that's ridiculous. Speak up for your rights. Push back. Hire yourself a good lawyer and do something about it, because we can't just let them trounce on our rights. Any thoughts about that? Shane, I know you get fired up about that too, because you're working with our lawyers about stuff and everything.
Oh, yeah. But I wanted to say something about Jacob's company, though. They give back. So, like, if I've seen them do it with our mission trips too. They'll put money back in.
Yeah.
So I've seen that a couple of times. So Give, Send, Go would never do that.
Absolutely. Don't go to GoFundMe. Go to Give, Send, Go. Okay, we have another text question.
We do. Something I just want to add real quick to Jacob's that he said that stuck out to me and also surprised me is he said he thought the opposite was going to happen with the generosity of people during this time.
Yeah.
And it has really spoken to my spirit to see the church becoming more than a building.
Yeah.
Prior to this, there were so many people that would have been like, yeah, I go to church. Like, I'm there on Sundays. I do this. You like you've talked about before. Yeah, I tip the pastor. I throw a $5. He does a good job.
Yeah.
But now we're getting to the point where people are realizing it doesn't have to be just the building. Like, we are the church.
Yeah.
And you're seeing it just with the amount of food in the pantry.
Yeah.
That every day we go down there and that front lobby is full of food that people are going into the grocery store. That's them putting themselves out there in the front lines, if you want to say that, because they're going out saying, I don't care about this virus. I'm going to go out and provide for people who haven't eaten in 2 days.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out and bring stuff to people that maybe I'm also out of a job, but I want to bless people because that's what the church does in these times.
Yeah.
And if we don't stand up as a church and put ourselves out there now, it just gives more fodder for the world to be like, oh, look, the church turned their back again.
There was a lot of pushback on my campaign for 7 days of serving Jesus from people in our church who said, I am uncomfortable with showing people what I do for the Lord. And I had to say it several times. Jesus told us to do good works to be seen so that the pagans will see us and they will praise our Father in heaven. It's Matthew 5, the salt of the earth, light of the world thing, right? And he literally says, do your good works to be seen. Let your light so shine that others may see your good works and praise your Father, which is in heaven. Now, people get confused because in chapter 6 of Matthew, he says, do not do your acts of righteousness to be seen by men. But the term acts of righteousness is different from good works. Yeah. Acts of righteousness is your personal prayer life, your devotional time, your time in the Word, the things that you're doing for your own edification to encourage your spirit. You don't do those things in public. When I was in Bible college, it was funny. We had this guy across the hall. He would put a big sign on his door, and it said, fasting and praying, please do not disturb. It's like, you're obviously not listening to the chapter about fasting and praying because it's in Matthew chapter 6 where Jesus says, don't do this to be seen. So there's two different things that we do. We do acts of personal devotion, which are supposed to be private and quiet, and you don't broadcast those things. But acts of kindness are absolutely supposed to be seen. Because here's the thing, Christian. Years from now, they're only going to hear about all the bad things we do, and they're going to have no record of the good things we do. And we need to give them a counter narrative, because how many times have you gotten into it with a person who's a non-believer and they have argued your ear off about how bad Christians have been in their lives? And it's simply because Christians have not been vocal enough about the things that they are doing for other people in their lives. Now, I'm not saying that you constantly have to broadcast every single thing you do, but don't hide your light. People think hide your light is referring to be an outspoken personal evangelist. That's not necessarily what he's talking about. It's in the context of that phrase, hiding your light, where he says, make your good works seen for others. So, amen. We do have a call. Oh, do we want to go to a text or do we want to go to a caller?
You can take the caller. Yeah,
the caller. All right, we'll take the caller. We've got Anonymous on line 1. Hello, Anonymous. Your question, please, for the COVID-19 call-in line. Anonymous, are you on the line? Question?
Hi, I'm calling from the Woonsocket campus. I'm just wondering if you guys have some new plan kind of set up for when the state reopens, mainly in Rhode Island.
Yeah, and what specifics are you talking about with the plan?
Just like, allowing a certain amount of people to come in, adding more services, service times, kind of like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're looking at all of that. That's what we were talking about earlier. We're going to come up with a plan. If they say we can start with 100, then we'll start with 100.
Yeah, we'll do whatever is necessary, and that's why it's the best thing that you can do, and you can encourage your other fellow congregants to do, is just to get on that 41411 line, because we want to communicate clearly with people. And then we're going to actually, it might come to the point, and you bring up a great point, which it might come to the point where they say, you know what, we're going to limit it at 100 people at a time for now. And so we might have to have a bunch of services available for people where we normally wouldn't. Right. Or we might have to sparse the crowd out, and we might have to have you assigned to a certain service as we get back to openness and freedom of gatherings. So I'd stay in communication with us. I'd keep on our social media pages, and when the restrictions start to get lifted, please pay attention as clearly as you can. We want to communicate, and just so you know, we're going to do everything that we can to cooperate with the restrictions as far as we can to a comfortable level. Guys, anybody else want to say anything about that?
No, I mean, we want to get in there as soon as, just like everybody else. And we're chomping at the bit for it too.
We might move chairs apart.
Yeah.
We might keep chairs 6 feet apart. We got plenty of space in North Attleboro.
Yep.
Got plenty of space in our future Woonsocket, which, by the way, Woonsocket, your space is almost done. That's exciting. So the new space. So you might open up in the new space.
Yeah.
I think that's what will happen. We'll open up new.
Yeah, and so exciting things for you guys over there. Thanks for the call, Anonymous. And now we have Debbie on line 2. You are live on the air with the COVID-19 call-in line. Hello, Debbie.
Hey, Pastor Tim, how are you doing?
I know who this Debbie is. I was in Guatemala with this Debbie. How are you?
They were interrogating when I called in. They're like, well, what do you want to talk about? I don't know. I want to talk about a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Well, we're glad that you called in, Deb. We love you and praying for you. Stay strong. What are your thoughts? What do you want to talk about?
Well, I do have two quick questions, but I do have a comment. Is that okay to make a quick comment?
Yes.
I just wanted to say, first of all, I am so proud of Waters, the leaders and the pastors and everybody that's been working. They have amazed me, the way you guys have been putting things together with the little skeleton crew you have. So I want to say that first of all.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're welcome. And second of all, I miss you guys. I miss serving side by side.
Man, we miss you.
But I do want to just make a little quick comment. You know, I know coronavirus, nobody predicted it. We didn't know that, this was going to happen, but here we are. And, if you watch too much news, you could be persuaded to think that there's a big conspiracy going on. If you watch the other news, it could be the total opposite. And, I took somebody's advice and I watch news in the morning to see what's happening at the beginning, and I watch it at night, make sure, everything's still the same. But, I have seen personally so much good come out of all this. I mean, families that at first were kicking and screaming to spend time together, and now they're really enjoying it.
That's
and
wonderful.
People finding out their creative, gifts that they didn't know they had or they didn't want to try. And so, God's got it under control. I know that much. Thank God, that I finally really metabolize that, because, I was one of those people that if you lost your job, you lost everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I went through that. And so I can understand that. But I also understand now that my job is not who I am. It's what I do.
Yeah.
And we all can do stuff right now. It's not like we have to sit at home. There's ways to donate. There's ways to get active. There's ways. So, it's just the way you look at it. And,
That's great.
but anyway, I think you guys are all doing great. But I
Okay.
do have a quick question.
Yeah.
When Attleboro does get lifted, I'm assuming there's going to be some sort of protocols to make sure everybody, like under 300 people, whatever the case may be. I know we have serve team there now, and it's only allowed so much right now for health reasons. But when we open the church so whoever wants to come goes, will you be integrating the serve team, or will we be waiting till Woonsocket opens if we're from the Woonsocket campus or from the Norwood campus or wherever we would be?
I'm trying to let me get your question
She
straight.
serves in Woonsocket.
You serve in Woonsocket, so you're wondering if. What do you mean? What do you mean by integrating the serve team? What are you talking about there?
Right now you've got certain people that are the only people that are allowed in the building, so they're serving. But once that's lifted, where it's pretty safe for us to hold service there, and we're all going to be meeting there temporarily for cost reasons and things like that, I'm assuming. But, would you still be using the same people that are serving right now, or would we be integrating to relieve them a little bit is what I'm saying?
Yeah, Shane's the
Oh,
one.
yeah,
that
we
answers.
would be integrating them for sure. My opinion is Woonsocket will open first in the new
Oh,
building.
you think so?
I think so. I think you're
Oh.
going to be busy, Deb.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you
Okay.
got it. And I hope you're rested.
Yeah, rest up.
Yeah.
We need you.
Well, actually, Nicole, yeah, don't you worry. I'm beyond rested. I'm like come back from the dead. It's time to get some stuff done. It's a little
Yeah,
bit like
right.
I'm going crazy here.
Yeah, and, you
But-
provide great balance for us too here, Deb, because I'm an alarmist. I'm also a big freedom of religion guy, and so Jordan and Dean are right in my lane. You are coming from the opposite end and just looking at the positive, and I appreciate that. And we need that. We need that voice
Yes.
to counter my alarmism and my frustration with the government. And I'm the Ron Swanson of this office, and so. Thank you so much for your call. And I just can we put the broadcast team up again, because that's the heroes that you're talking about, Deb. They They make me look good. They do the hard work. They are fantastic. And not just those. There's a few more behind the scenes people, including my assistant. What's your name again? Kelly, my assistant Kelly.
We really appreciate
who is completely off camera, but she is a fantastic help, and so many people that you don't see. So always remember that whenever you see someone that is notable in a church or very visible, there are hundreds of people behind him that make that happen. And that's because of the church. The church is not me. The church is all of us. And so every part matters. Thank you guys for what you do. And I can't wait to get you guys back into the building and just to meet together again. Any thoughts about that, guys?
I think she said something important. You have to do something.
Yeah.
If you're sitting home all day from dawn until dusk doing nothing, you will go crazy.
You will go crazy.
Get out for a walk, play with the kids, find a home project. Last month I was looking for a landscaper. This month I am that landscaper.
There you go.
Because there's time, so do something.
Yeah. How's the landscaping going?
I'm almost done.
It's the world's oldest profession, right? People always say it's prostitution, but it's landscaping. They haven't read their Bible. There was a garden there.
Landscaping first.
So anyway, that's why the devil got into sin so fast, because he knew how horrible landscaping was.
Amen.
I want to share my misery right here. Jody, do we have a text question? Oh, 508. Let's put the number back up because we're going to take calls. I'm enjoying this. Let's keep going if we can for a little bit longer. 508-695-1300. Get a call in. We want to hear from you. 508-695-1300. And just like Deb, it doesn't have to be a question. It can be comments. It can be different perspectives. I appreciate it. Need to hear it. Love you guys. Let's talk. Jody, do we have a text question?
We do. We actually have a lot of texts coming in about how much they miss the church and they want to get back in here. A lot saying how much they appreciate worship and content and all the things we're doing. So I just want to make sure I give those people a shout out. We see you guys, and we're just happy we're able to do that we live in a world and have the ability and the technology here to bring that to you, especially the worship.
Yeah.
I talk about it in the pregame a lot, that it's great to be able to present that to people, but it's even better being in the building. Mm-hmm. Well, now that you can't be in the building, I'm glad that we can give you adequate content to try and get you those little touches. So, but the question we have here is, just prior to moving to Hong Kong, Francis Chan received a lot of criticism for saying that every person he touched after a particular service was healed. I was surprised by the outrage in the online Christian community. Are divine healings by laying on hands not considered possible anymore?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's absolutely not true. I mean, absolutely not true. It's called cessationism, from the word to cease. And here's the deal. I talked about this on the deep end a few weeks ago. Cessationism is a very new theological concept that was invented, literally invented, I got to say, because there's no basis in the biblical text for it, by a guy named Benjamin Warfield. They call him B.B. Warfield. He was, I think, a professor at Yale Divinity School. So, this is in the 1800s. They hadn't fallen off the rails in terms of preaching the gospel yet. But they have now. But Yale Divinity School. And he basically invented this theological construct that the gifts of the Spirit and the manifestations of the Spirit, such as healing, tongues, interpretation tongues, faith, miracles, and all those things, were no longer active in the church since the apostolic age. Now, the problem is there's just so many evidences that that's not true practically. There's no theological basis for it biblically. I don't care what anybody says. I have read the arguments. They are weak. They are insufficient. And I said this in the context of our talk in the book of Acts, and I just think it's so funny how the devil works to deceive the church, to try to tell the church you have no power. Mm-hmm. I mean, really, that's what it is. It's an attack on our birthright as Christians to suggest we're on our own here. Yeah. And so it's just kind of, isn't it interesting that, so as the world gets worse, as the scripture talks about, in the last days there'll be terrible times. Paul talks about that in Timothy, 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy. So as the world gets worse, we're supposed to have less power. Isn't that a wonderful mantra that the devil wants to embed into our heads? You know what I mean? Yeah. So, no, we categorically reject that. I take Francis Chan's word for it. I trust him. He's a mighty man of God. I thank God for him. He's a gift to the body of Christ. If you haven't read his book, Crazy Love, you should. So I know miracles are happening, and they're happening in places that we don't know of, because usually miracles, especially in the book of Acts, if you read this, and we talked about this, they are always typically on the front line of evangelism. So wherever the gospel is making new inroads into a community, usually God substantiates the message with signs, miracles, and wonders. That hasn't stopped. There's no biblical scripture you can show me where these things stop. The one that they use is from 1 Corinthians 13. It's in the middle of the love chapter where it says, where there are prophecies, these shall cease. Where there are tongues, these shall cease. But the problem is, if you use that phrase to back up that idea that tongues and prophecies cease at the time of the apostles, well, he also says, where there is knowledge, there it shall cease. So did knowledge cease since the apostolic age? Of course not. So no, that's wrong. That's bad theology, and I wanted you to know where it comes from, because it is a absolutely very relatively new theological preposition invented by one man who was badly mistaken, and he was also a very influential man and a good man. I don't doubt he was a good man. I'm just saying he was wrong about that. So that's my thoughts. Any thoughts about that, guys? No thoughts. Okay.
I concur.
That's not that. That's not that.
All right, so another question, or what do we got? Got no callers. No callers out there. Lines are all open. This is your chance. We're going to end with one caller. If we have one more caller, thank God for all the callers that we've had tonight. They've all been great.
We do have one. It's not on COVID, but I can. We have a text here that says, "What are your thoughts on physical discipline of children? Proverbs says that the rod of discipline drives foolishness away from a child. What exactly does rod of discipline mean?"
That's a great question. So we've all had children. I don't know what I would do without my rod of discipline. And I will tell. Let me go first, and you guys can share your thoughts.
Sure.
Okay. So my wife and I are spankers. We've always been spankers. I don't tell people to spank, and the reason why is because some people can't do it. They go overboard. And I don't want to encourage people who have no self-control to do that. So you're asking, I'm telling you. And I will tell you that it has been a godsend for disciplining our children, because that's how our children are. Now, I spanked some of them more than others. I mean, it's just some of them needed it a little bit more than others. And I will tell you that if you do it right, and there is a way to do it that's right, and that is you've got to provide fair warning. That's the rod. Rod actually in Hebrew, in Semitic shepherds, the rod was the measuring rod by which they would trade sheep. So they would say, 2 rods is 2 sheep. How long is the rod? How many sheep walk on, in the rod? And so I'll give you 30 rods of sheep for, 50 bales of hay, in tradesmen. That's how they would do it. So it was literally a measurement. So think about that term, rod of discipline, is a measurement of discipline. It is not necessarily take the rod and smack him upside the head. So it's what's appropriate for the child. And that's my approach to parenting advice as a Bible scholar. You got to do what's right for each particular child. And then, I do not promote or condone or tell people to spank. I know we did it. You're asking me. That's what we did. It did work. For some children, it doesn't work. And you got to make sure that you're aware of the nuances of your child and, do what's right by the child. So thoughts from you guys. You guys are all parents, so you guys can speak to this. Go for it.
No, I totally agree. One of the big things that my parents kind of did the same thing growing up, and it was one of the big bases for me is you never physically discipline out of anger. Like it's a thing where you discipline with that warning, like you're saying, the rod. Like this is what you did. This is why you did it. This is the punishment. Yeah. It's not that the reaction to the action is physical. It's an explanation, and then it moves on from there. But that's yes. We did spank some of our children. Some of our children it wasn't necessary. Right. One of my daughters, I can look at her and she dissolves into tears. Yeah. I actually have to be careful how I discipline her because of how sensitive she is. I believe that there are actions. I mean, you think if your child is constantly running out into traffic and you keep saying no and you keep saying no and they keep doing that, well, would you rather have an abrupt reaction to keep them from doing something
Right.
detrimental to their health,
That's right.
or would you rather them get run over by a car?
That's right. That's good.
There are definite actions. I mean, they take one extra cookie out of the cookie jar. Okay, maybe you took it a little too far.
Yeah.
But there are actions where you need somebody to remember, I should not do that again.
Yeah. That's right. Thoughts, Marty?
I agree. Some children, spanking is the way to go. Some children, it is not the way to go. My oldest daughter, super sensitive. If I speak too hard, she's tears. She's waterworks. So with her, I've never had to. However, child number 2, I feel like she's going to be the one that will just, push me to
you.
that.
Yeah.
Growing
There's
up,
always one, too. Isn't
there's
there?
always just that. That one.
God saved that one for Cheryl and I for last. Yeah, I don't know why. It's like a cruel joke, Lord.
Just when you thought you
Please.
had a handle
Oh,
on
we
it.
were such
Yeah.
great parents before this one came along.
Yes, that's it.
There's a joke, but Cheryl and I talk about this. Like, we used to go to restaurants with our first 2, and there's a 7-year gap between our second oldest and our youngest. And we used to go to restaurants with them, and literally strangers would come up to us at the table and say, "We just want to let you know we are in awe of how obedient and behaved your children are." That has not happened since the third one came along. It's just so amazing how there's different children, and this is why parenting is the great discipleship, format for us.
For us.
But keep going as you were saying.
So you have to parent different children differently. I think also keeping in mind that your response, what are you responding to? How are you responding? There are times where I will just take my 2-year-old and place her on the couch next to my wife and walk away.
Yeah.
Because I'm angry.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm frustrated, and I know that in that moment, I can't talk to her about coloring on the dining room table because she's just done it, and I'm frustrated.
Yeah.
So I think knowing your limitations, knowing your buttons, knowing what makes you tick, and responding, in a way that is safe, but also as a parent, letting them know this is not right, this is not safe. And whatever you decide that action is.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, I've
Shay?
definitely had to play the reinforcement card before too. Something happened, she's like, "Emily, I need you to come in here.
Yeah.
Need a minute.
I just need a minute,
Yep.
and then I'll come back and handle it."
Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I only had one, so I didn't have anybody else to practice on. So,
You don't know anything.
so I've spanked my kid, but
Do you spank the dogs? Do they get
no,
spanked?
Isn't that funny? I can't bring myself to spank a dog. No
No.
way. Never.
I don't even look at them funny.
Oh.
Like I melt.
Why is that?
I
Why
don't know.
is that?
I don't know.
It's so
I have
true.
tried spraying my kids with water. It just doesn't work the same. So.
Roll up a newspaper.
Just roll up the newspaper. Like, oh.
Yeah, it works on George.
Yeah. Well, that's how it is. That's what I would say. I think that's all good
Yeah.
advice. I think that anybody who says the Bible calls us to spank has not really truly read it clearly, and I don't think that anybody who says the Bible outlaws spanking has truly read it clearly. It's got to be, God does not give us detailed instructions. He gives us principles. He gives us values. He gives us a sense of what's right and what's wrong, and then he gives us the Holy Spirit, so that we have the third person of the Trinity living in us to answer these difficult questions and trust his leading. And I think that you need to pray over that for yourself, with your husband or spouse, and think things through about what's right for each child. Anyway, no calls are coming in, so I take it as that means you guys are done with us. And just want to let you know we were done with you first, okay? That's how I'm going to roll with that, all right? So have you enjoyed this episode? We're so glad that you were here. I hope it's been a benefit to you. We'll do this again if we need to, and just to have a chance to talk, to chat. It was awesome to hear from some of you. Would love to hear from more of you next time. Guys, any final thoughts, any closing sentences you want to make or anything like that? No?
Just want to reiterate how much we miss everybody.
Yeah, we miss you. We miss you.
For sure.
And before you know it, we'll be 4 months into having church again, and this will be a foregone memory. But hopefully the lessons that we have learned will stay with us, and we will know the Lord better as a result. So God bless you. We'll see you very shortly. Hang tough. Stay healthy. Take care.